G'day guys, Mark Hobbs here, and I'm here to talk to you about the new XEEN Meister T1.3 full frame spherical lenses. Now, I'd like to call this video more of a testimonial rather than review, simply because I want to share my experiences and opinion based on what I shoot and how I shoot. And sure, I'm going to dive a little into the design and features of the lenses, but there is so much more to tell from the experience, rather than just a specification sheet you can find online. Now, for those that don't know me, I use a lot of different glass throughout my work, which help define what is right for the story and achieving the visual. Sure, I'm using a lot of high-end professional market lenses time to time, but I also dip my hands into the consumer and prosumer market lenses, as I can find there are some real gems. Now, when it comes to XEEN, I have a history. In the past, I've owned and used the Classic series, the CF series, way before testing these new Meisters. And because of this, I've also seen the unique features each series has engineered and its improvements. So let's talk about the Meister series, available in 14, 24, 35, 50, and 85mm. I was fortunate to test these 5 Meister focal lengths in 2 scenarios. One was in a controlled studio environment with Alexa LF and Red Raptor XL, both with Caucasian skin tones and dark skin tones. And also in the real world in a narrative scenario where my team and myself went to Prague to film a few scenes testing the visual and physical performance on a real film set. I've written a full review about these lenses on my website, which is available, but just to keep this video short and keep it just as a testimonial, I'll keep the deep features of the lenses brief. So this is the XEEN Meister series, 14, 24, 35, 50 and 85mm, all with a wide open aperture of T1.3, except for the 14mm, which starts at 2.6. The XEEN Meister series image circle covers a full frame medium, and all of the lenses, except for the 14mm, are all the physical same size, all with a front barrel diameter of 114mm. The 14mm though is a little larger, it has a 134 diameter. These slight differences in weight between the 5 are actually quite minimal, just between 1.9 and 2.3 kilograms. It's absolutely nothing compared to most other brands, making these a perfect fit for remote head payloads and handheld operation. They have amazing visible markings, which are glow in the dark by the way, with a 300-degree rotation for focus pulling. As you can see, there is an extended data port if you want to grab some extra metadata, depending on what you're doing, and also LDS for the PL mount, that is. The Meisters are also available in EF and E mount. Now, before I continue and dive into some footage, I want to mention a little disclaimer, or the elephant in the room, if you will. And I know what most of you are thinking, and I too thought the same. And this is, of course, the comparison of a high-end, expensive lens that we all know to the consumer or prosumer level lenses, especially when they are named Meister and have an aperture of T1.3. It rings a bell, doesn't it? Everyone in their minds right now is thinking, oh, these lenses are a cheap Asian knockoff of another high-end brand. And I absolutely understand people jumping the gun, as we've seen some bad releases in the past of aftermarket brands trying to mimic well-known names and lens models. But let me tell you this, the XEEN Meister series are nothing compared to the other brand, even if they are T1.3 and have a name like Meister. I want to tell you that these lenses are in a field of their own, and this is something I want you all to remember before jumping the gun. These lenses are not to be compared to that other lens brand or that other lens series that might sound the same. The XEEN Meisters are unique to themselves, and they hold a look that is fit for the right job. And based on being a past owner of the Classic series and the CF series, I can say that the Meister series are light years ahead. And what brings these lenses to a level that I would say is starting to breach past prosumer and into the professional level territory is the word consistency. And I'm hoping that the tests that I'm about to show to you prove that. So enough of me chatting, let's take a look at the tests I put these lenses through on the 2 different cameras and the 2 different situations. I performed a technical test, as I mentioned, on all 5 XEEN Meister lenses with 2 different full frame cameras and 2 different types of skin tones. I'm only going to run you through some of the unique features I found from the test for now, because to go through every test from each lens will take over half an hour. So I'll be sure that the individual lens tests and links are listed for personal viewing in your own time. All of these tests with our models I shot at T4, which is what I usually shoot 85% of the time when I'm filming. I always feel that lenses perform best in this area, and one of the results for the XEEN Meister is to reflect on the way I shoot. The first thing I want to mention is the color, or the color bias of the XEEN Meisters. Now you can see the Alexa is showing a more richer black, which you can see here on the color chart, compared to the red, which has slightly lower contrast. I've always actually found the Alexa LF scans blacks more beautifully, even compared to the Mini LF, which is supposedly the same sensor, but I find the LF body performs differently and really embraces the blacks in the performance of the lenses. The halation from the practical lights looks just amazing on the XEEN Meisters on both camera sensors, and they capture this beautifully. You can see it's not overpowering, but it's just a nice gentle characteristic to the frame. Let's remember that word, consistency. You can see as we check all focal lengths, it's easy to see that the halation is the same across the board. Specular light from reflections didn't produce much halation at all, or if any, but still was captured nicely from the cameras. Here we focus from background to minimal focal distance. At minimum focus, the bokeh is consistent across all focal lengths. Let's just compare them so you can see. Again, that word I'm going to remind you of is consistency, being the key player in the XEEN Meister lens series. Now I did pan the camera extreme left and right, as well tilting up and down to see how any distortion or ghost flares would play out and possibly affect the image. We can see that a little later from the distortion charts I shot. Ghost flares occurred subtly, but in a very characteristic manner once again, which you can see here. As for any other issues of spot or veiling glare, it was just difficult to find. The lens flare test showed beautiful colors and consistency once again, and some interesting facts about the different aberrations caused by the photo sites of the different camera sensors. You can see with the distance of the light source and the focus distance being the same, the flare is different on the different cameras. The visual result is only small between the two cameras, but it again proves that the different photo sites on different sensors plays a big role in how light is actually recorded, since the light must actually physically pass through the photo sites in the actual depth of them to be captured. Distortion on all the lenses is minimal to non-existent, although the wider lenses, which is usually the culprit of distortion, in this case the 14mm, wasn't too bad, and it had a nice uniform look to the set as you started to use the other focal lengths. Lastly, let's take a look at the lens breathing. It's not too extreme, but let's come back to that word again of consistency. The lens breathing is uniform across all focal lengths, giving a focus pulls the same feel across all. For me, this is a plus when shooting narrative, so there's a visual continuity throughout the story. Now, the real world test was without given the most fun, but also the most useful play out for me to see if these lenses were really up to the test. When you're on a set, assistants are constantly pulling lenses on and off the camera, lugging them around from location to location, pulling them out of the case, and different setups might have vibrations, different weather situations involved, and I feel after using them back to back for a few days, you can say that in this field, it is the best way to test a lens on how it can hold up. Half of my work of the year is usually spent shooting narrative projects, whilst the rest is on commercial work. And given that the bulk of my work is narrative, because of the fantastic performance of consistency the XEEN Meisters have proven, the Meister series definitely in the future is something I'd love to shoot narrative with in entirety. I feel these lenses are unique enough, and again, so consistent, that they are worthy of defining a look for a story that fits. So I hope you gained some insight, not just into the new XEEN Meister lens series, but also an insight into the direction XEEN are taking as a company. It's obvious they are reaching into a higher bar of quality and seeking to have their lenses used in different forms of film. Again, if you would like to actually see my review on the lenses, I have a write-up on the XEEN Meisters on my website, breaking down each unique feature. That's it for now. I want to thank you once again, and remember to check out XEEN Meister lenses and other series at xeenglobal.com. I'm Mark Hobbs, and this is the XEEN Meister Lens Series.